Welcome to another deep dive. Today, our mission is to explore a really incredibly frustrating habit.
Oh, definitely. Frustrating, but entirely universal.
Exactly. We're looking at why we constantly put our own lives on hold, waiting for other people to join us. And, more importantly, how we can finally break that cycle.
Yeah. Which is not easy to do.
No, it's really not. So, to do this, we are unpacking a deeply personal, highly relatable, and honestly pretty hilarious essay. It's titled The Art of Choosing Yourself Lessons from the Wheel.
It's such a great read.
It really is. Now, I want you to think about the last time you, really genuinely wanted to try something completely new.
Just something totally out of your normal routine.
Right. Maybe it was a weird cooking class or checking out some obscure indie film or even just going to a new restaurant that opened up across town. You have the tab open on your browser, you were looking at the schedule, and then you didn't go.
Yep. We've all been there.
You didn't go because you couldn't find a +1. You asked around, nobody was free, so you just quietly closed the tab and spent the evening doing the exact same thing you always do.
Which is such a common trap, you know?
It totally is.
Yeah.
So today, we're going to look at how a solitary, mildly anxiety-inducing, and incredibly messy pottery class somehow holds the ultimate secret to unlearning that behavior.
And it is the perfect source text for this topic.
Why do you say that?
Well, because it takes this grand, somewhat intimidating abstract concept. Self-actualization, prioritizing yourself, and it grounds it in something incredibly tactile, literally mud on a spinning wheel.
Right. It's very hands-on.
Exactly. It strips away all the philosophical jargon and forces us to look at the daily mundane choices where we just abandon our own interests simply because we don't want to be alone in a room.
Yeah, or alone with mud that has a serious attitude, as we'll soon find out.
Oh, absolutely.
But I want to start right where the author's journey begins, with this massive mental roadblock. The essay mentions this quote that just quietly lived in the author's head for a long time. It goes, "You don't need to be good at something to enjoy it."
That's a really profound thought to just have echoing around in there.
It is? But it wasn't loud. It wasn't some sudden dramatic epiphany with a swelling orchestral soundtrack. It was just sitting there, nudging them until they finally decided they wanted to sign up for pottery.
But then they immediately hit a wall.
Exactly. They hit that exact wall we were just talking about, the waiting trap.
Yeah, the author was entirely stuck in that holding pattern.
Yeah.
I mean, they wanted to try it, but they were waiting for schedules to align, waiting for plans to solidify.
Right.
The essay highlights this desperate feeling of begging friends, using that classic plea, please, let's go. Just desperate for someone, anyone, to validate the activity by joining in.
Just to have a buddy there.
Exactly. But nobody was available. They were just waiting for that magic phrase, yes, let's go together, which, well, it never came.
Okay, let's unpack this, because on the surface, wanting a friend there just feels like wanting good company, right?
Sure.
We tell ourselves we are just being social. But reading this, I realized it's actually much darker.
How so?
Well, waiting for your friends to agree to do a hobby with you is essentially like waiting for a corporate quorum just to eat a cupcake.
Oh, wow. That's a great analogy.
Right. Why do we need a committee to validate our joy? Why do we inherently shrink ourselves and immediately assume we need permission to go have a good time?
This raises an important question about what that +1 actually represents to us psychologically.
Okay, I'm listening.
We convince ourselves we just prefer this social interaction,
Right.
right? But in reality, we are often using the absence of a companion as a highly convenient shield against vulnerability.
A shield against vulnerability. I'm going to need you to break that down.
Sure.
Are you saying that subconsciously we're not actually looking for company? We're just terrified of being seen, being bad at something all by ourselves?
Yeah. That is the core of the psychological mechanism. Think of the companion as a human buffer.
A human buffer. Okay.
When you try something completely new, especially a physical or creative skill, the statistical probability of you being terrible at it on the first try is near 100%.
Oh, totally. I mean, nobody sits down at a pottery wheel and just casually throws a perfect vase.
Exactly. If you go to a class alone and fail, your brain has to absorb the entirety of that inadequacy. You are the only one struggling.
Oh, I see.
But if you bring a friend, you instantly distribute the cognitive weight of that failure. You make eye contact across the room, you roll your eyes at how hard it is, you laugh together.
Right. Suddenly, you aren't an isolated failure. You are two friends sharing a funny, shared struggle.
Precisely. We delay gratification and wait for friends because we are profoundly afraid to carry the full weight of being a beginner.
That completely reorients how I think about it. We aren't waiting for our friends' schedules to clear up. We're waiting for a human shock absorber. We want someone to diffuse the tension.
We really do.
And the author recognizes this. They realize they're doing something incredibly embarrassing, which is outsourcing their happiness. They tell themselves what we all say when friends cancel. It's okay. Maybe later.
Ah, the classic maybe later.
Right. But then they hit us with one of the most striking lines in the whole piece. They write, later is a very convincing liar.
That line is so powerful
Yeah.
because later is the safest psychological space to put our unfulfilled desires.
Right. It doesn't sound like no.
Exactly. It protects us from the harsh finality of the word never, while simultaneously requiring absolutely none of the effort, risk, or vulnerability of the word now. It's a comfortable delusion.
Wow. A comfortable delusion.
Yeah, and the author asks this confronting question. What if it's literally our responsibility to make ourselves feel good, to give ourselves experiences, to stop waiting for permission?
And that level of agency terrifies people.
Absolutely, because it removes the scapegoat. You can no longer blame your boring, unfulfilled weekend on your friends being busy.
The accountability is entirely on you. So the author finally accepts this responsibility. They take the leap.
They do.
They sign up for a weekend pottery class lasting one whole month, and they walk through those doors completely alone. And I love their mindset going in, too. They describe it as having no expectations, just vibes and mild anxiety.
Which is arguably the most optimal, realistic baseline for neuroplasticity and learning a new skill.
Wait, really? Just vibes and anxiety?
Well, yeah, you aren't paralyzed by the need for perfection, but you have just enough physiological arousal, that mild anxiety, to remain alert and engaged.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the aesthetic we associate with pottery is so calm.
Oh, very zen.
Right. We all have this romanticized cinematic idea of it, probably from watching movies or like Instagram reels. The soft studio lighting, the peaceful rhythmic spinning of the wheel, effortlessly pulling up a perfectly symmetrical, beautiful vase with just a gentle touch.
Yeah, that's the fantasy.
But the messy reality of actually crossing that threshold and showing up is jarring. The author writes that pottery humbled me instantly.
It is a brutal collision between passive expectation and active physical reality. When you are actually at the wheel, you are dealing with physics, centrifugal force, and raw earth.
Brutal is the right word. The descriptions in the essay are so visceral and genuinely funny, they wrote, that just trying to center the clay on the wheel felt like a personal attack.
I love that phrasing.
Me too. The wheel itself had attitude.
Yeah.
And my absolute favorite part, they said their hands were merely there for moral support.
That is hilarious.
I have to pause and ask you, the listener, have you ever finally tried that thing you've hyped up in your head for years, only to realize within 5 minutes that you are completely, hopelessly out of your depth?
Oh, I'm sure everyone has.
Because reading that part, I could feel the frustration. But I have to push back a little here.
Okay, go ahead.
If I drop good money on a month-long class and the clay feels like a personal attack, isn't that just a miserable way to spend a weekend? Like, how is there any value in putting yourself through that kind of frustration?
It sounds counterintuitive, I know. But there's immense psychological value in being physically humbled by a new, demanding task.
Really? How so?
Well, what you are experiencing as a personal attack is actually the forceful disruption of your default neural pathways.
Interesting.
When you are grappling with something totally foreign, especially a tactile, combat-like struggle with clay spinning rapidly on a wheel, your brain simply does not have the cognitive bandwidth to process anything else.
Meaning you literally can't overthink.
Precisely. You don't have the processing power left to worry about your inbox, or whether your hair looks good, or if the person at the wheel next to you is judging your technique.
Because the clay is about to fly off the table.
Exactly. The sheer physical difficulty demands your absolute undivided presence. It yanks you violently out of your anxieties about the past or the future and forces you purely into the present moment. That combativeness, that physical struggle with the attitude of the wheel, is the very mechanism that grounds you.
So the struggle isn't a barrier to the experience. The struggle is the experience. You can't be trapped in your own social anxiety when you're wrestling a wet lump of mud that's actively trying to launch itself off the table.
Yes, the wheel demands your immediate physical attention, It acts as a cognitive override.
Well, the result of all that grounding, cognitive override, and combat is definitely not a masterpiece.
Not at all.
This brings us to the first actual creation the author manages to produce after wrestling with this clay. They describe their first attempt at making a cup as not symmetrical, not stable, not even emotionally supportive, just vibes.
Not even emotionally supportive. It's a brilliant way to describe an object that utterly fails to validate your ego.
I honestly laughed out loud reading that. You look at this sad, lopsided lump of fired mud, hoping to feel proud, hoping for some external validation of your effort, and it just looks pathetic.
Yeah.
And they actually show it to a friend.
Oh, a brave move.
Very brave. And the friend's reaction is brutal but honest. The friend stares at the cup for 2 seconds, bursts out laughing, and asks, "Is this a cup or abstract art?"
That is the exact scenario that keeps people from taking the class in the first place.
Yes.
It is the ultimate social fear realized. You put yourself out there, you tried your best, you failed unequivocally, and someone whose opinion you value is laughing right at you.
But the author's reaction completely flips the script on what we expect. We are taught our whole lives that failure is supposed to sting. It's supposed to be this heavy, shameful thing that makes you want to hide.
Right.
But when the friend asks if it's abstract art, the author just laughs too. It didn't sting. It didn't feel like a failure. They described feeling incredibly light.
What's fascinating here is we are seeing the fundamental difference between existing and performing.
Wait, I have to push back on that a little.
Sure.
So, existing versus performing sounds great in a philosophical vacuum, but we live in a world where performance matters, whether it's at work or providing for a family or even just mastering a hobby so you don't waste your time.
That's true.
So if I commit to a month-long class, I want to leave with a functional cup. Doesn't abandoning the desire to be good at something just lead to complacency? Why should we be okay with just existing and failing spectacularly?
It's a completely fair point, and in the context of your career or your core responsibilities, absolutely performance is essential. But you have to look at the context of the goal in this specific studio.
Okay, I'm with you.
Throughout our daily lives, we are constantly performing. We are trying to hit a metric, project an image of competence, or meet an expectation. In those arenas, failure hurts deeply because the stakes are tied to our identity, our survival, and our social standing.
Right. The stakes are high.
But the author's primary goal in walking into that pottery studio wasn't to become a master artisan. The true goal was to stop waiting for permission to live.
The goal was to break the cycle of outsourcing their happiness.
Exactly. They stripped away the audience and the stakes. When you redefine the objective from producing a flawless, functional object to simply experiencing the process of being a beginner, failure loses its venom.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
The author realized they were finally just existing for themselves. That lopsided cup isn't a reflection of their worth or their competence in the world. It's just a lopsided cup.
Yeah.
And that leads to a crucial realization. Failing at something doesn't have to be turned into a personality trait.
That is such a relieving concept. Failing doesn't have to be a personality trait. You can just be remarkably bad at making a cup on a Tuesday, and it means absolutely nothing about who you are as a person on Wednesday.
It frees you from the tyranny of your own ego. When you aren't performing for an audience, even an imagined one, your mistakes don't carry any psychological weight.
Right. They're just things that happened.
They're no longer indictments of your character. They are just the physical, neutral realities of learning a new material.
And once that heavy burden of performance and perfectionism is totally gone, the author is finally able to experience what the wheel actually has to teach them.
Yeah.
They move past the initial shock, the feeling of being personally attacked by the clay, and that mild anxiety, and they settle into this incredible sensory immersion.
That's the turning point.
They describe feeling the cool softness of clay, the quiet rhythm of the wheel, and noticing how time literally slows down when your hands are just busy creating something, even if that something is terrible.
They transition from fighting the material to sitting with it. They surrendered the need to conquer the clay and instead allowed themselves to just experience it.
And the lessons they pull from this sensory shift are profound. Pottery didn't just teach them how to manipulate mud. It taught them how to sit with themselves in a quiet room.
Which is hard for a lot of us.
It's so hard. It taught them how to be patient. And most importantly, it taught them how to actively choose not to quit just because something didn't look pretty or impressive immediately. The author writes this beautiful line, "Not everything you do has to be impressive. Some things can just be yours."
That is a remarkably radical statement today. We live in a culture that constantly demands. We monetize our hobbies, optimize our free time, or at the very least, produce something aesthetically pleasing enough to show off for external validation on social media.
Oh, totally. Everything has to be content.
Exactly. To claim an activity purely for your own internal experience, without any need for it to be impressive, is an act of quiet rebellion.
It really is. It makes me think of this analogy. The spinning wheel, with its attitude and its constant, relentless motion, is exactly like the chaotic, demanding pace of our everyday
I
lives.
like that.
It's always spinning. Monday morning hits, the emails pour in, the obligations pile up, and life is constantly trying to throw you off balance. And keeping your messy, wet hands on that clay is the grounding practice of prioritizing yourself amidst all that chaotic spin.
Yeah.
You're getting your hands dirty, you're making mistakes, the shape is collapsing, but you are holding on to your own time.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that analogy perfectly captures why the author fundamentally changes how they view their creation.
So?
By the end of the month, they look at each crooked cup, every collapsed attempt, all those what even is this moments, and they realize they aren't looking at failures at all, they're looking at evidence.
Because physical objects carry psychological weight.
Precisely. Human memory is flawed, and our self-doubt is incredibly loud. We can easily convince ourselves that we aren't brave or that we never take risks, but physical evidence anchors the psychology.
Oh, wow.
When the author looks at that wonky, non-emotionally supportive cup that their friend roasted them for, they aren't seeing bad pottery technique. They're looking at a physical, tangible token of their own agency.
They are looking at proof that they didn't wait this time.
Yes. The imperfection isn't a flaw, it's exactly what makes the experience deeply beautiful, because it proves that creating something messy for oneself is inherently more valuable than creating something impressive for an audience.
It's undeniable proof of life. It's proof that you were there, in the room, getting your hands dirty, actually existing, instead of just sitting in the metaphorical hallway waiting for someone to come along and hold your hand.
And that physical evidence, along with the internal shift it represents, is something no one can take away from you. A friend can laugh at the cup, but they cannot diminish the bravery it took to sit at the wheel alone. It remains fiercely yours.
As we zoom out from the pottery studio and bring this deep dive to a close, the ultimate takeaway the author leaves us with is so incredibly empowering, precisely because it is so unglamorous.
Yeah, it's very real.
They openly admit they never became amazing at pottery. They didn't uncover some hidden prodigy-level talent. They're still not good at it.
It's completely fine.
Right. But they kept going simply because it made me feel good. And they realized that feeling good is a complete sentence. It is enough.
It has to be enough. If we restrict our lives only to the things we are immediately excellent at or the things we have a partner to do with, our worlds become very, very small.
So small.
We box ourselves into a tiny comfort zone defined entirely by external circumstances.
The author writes this hard, unavoidable truth. No one is coming to build your life for you. You have to show up for yourself. Even if it's awkward, even if you feel out of place.
Absolutely.
Even if your first attempt looks like something your friend will roast you for until the end of time, let them roast you. You found something real in the mess and the laughter and that very wonky cup. At least you actually lived a little bit today.
It is the realization that the vibrant, unpaused life you are waiting for is sitting right there on the other side of your willingness to look a little bit foolish all by yourself.
So what does this all mean? It means that the true masterpiece created in that studio over that month wasn't a cup at all. The mud was just a medium.
Yeah.
The real masterpiece was the quiet, powerful decision to finally stop waiting for permission to live. It was the decision to stop outsourcing joy and finally choose themselves.
Well said.
And that brings us to the thought we want to leave you with today. If every crooked, imperfect, slightly embarrassing attempt at something new is actually just beautiful, tangible evidence that you showed up and lived a little, what wonky cup are you avoiding making right now simply because you're still waiting for someone else to tell you you're ready?